This is the ATOTO X10 Floating Head Unit.
Oh, damn! Straight away. Of course, let's connect up my new antenna. Right. That looks good. Yes, that's going to go. Lovely. I can now slide it left and right, and likewise I can move it up and down now. Not bad. If you want to go to the next song, hit that. It goes to a bit of Colour Me Bad. This is the best I think you're going to get. Look at this sorry, sad state of affairs of an excuse of a radio. It's got to get changed, and that's today's job. And my daughter's just started driving this car, but she can't drive it very well because she keeps telling me that, Dad, there's nothing to connect my phone. Well, we're going to change all that. I'm going to have everything that she could possibly want, all your hot and cold running Bluetooth Wi-Fi connectivity, and I'm going to show you right now this incredible little stereo that I'm going to put in. So because it's got a single DIN unit on the Volkswagen Beetle, it's not going to have the whole of the dashboard taken apart and then have a different sort of fascia kit going in. Instead, what I'm actually doing is using that single DIN. There's a little bit of a blanking plate. So the stereo today has been provided by ATOTO, and it's their X10. It's an incredible stereo for your car. I've actually got one in my Honda Civic, and it's been designed to fit within the existing dashboard. But as I mentioned, for the Volkswagen Beetle, it's a little bit more tricky. So we're just going to use that single DIN, and then the screen is going to what they call float. It's called a floating stereo. Let's get the box open. I'll show you what it's all about. So this is the X10 Floating Head Unit by ATOTO. In here, all your wiring harnesses, that's going to be plug and play. And of course, let's have a look at the main events. Ooh, look at that. Here we go. This is the ATOTO X10 Floating Head Unit. You can see that it uses an existing DIN size stereo. That's going to plug in, and then this is going to sit in front. And you've got the adjustability. It actually moves up and down. You can angle it slightly left and right as well, but it's certainly, look at the size of that screen. It's a 10-inch QLED Android system base car stereo. Of course, you're going to be able to use your Apple on here as well. Some of the key features that this has, it's got a built-in amplifier. It's got hands-free ability. You can also have options to put front and rear cameras on this as well. So enough talk. I know you're desperate to see what this looks like on the car, as I am. Let's get it on. I haven't actually told my daughter I'm doing this. She's out for the day, so it'll be a nice little surprise if I can get it done before she gets back. At least it's not raining. Now I know what you're thinking. Why am I getting around the passenger side? Well, as I say, in all my car stereo installs, I prefer to do it that way because I'm right-handed and I just find it more comfortable. Plus, I haven't got the steering wheel in the way. So I've just got the engine on at the moment, just because it's a cold day today. And you probably noticed that on the existing radio here, it's actually already kind of half coming out, and that's because I was trying to find out if this radio, there was a reason why, if you look at the dot matrix on it, it's all kind of faded, but it's just had its day, so it's definitely time to change. Now, as part of the kit, they give you what they call the radio keys. That's just the physical keys to take the radio out, and it's going to be for the Volkswagen. Different cars have different types of physical keys to remove it. So you pop the keys in. It does depend which way you put it. It's a bit hit and miss, so I'm going to try it this way round to start with. And you'll feel it sort of disengage a little hook at the back. Push them all the way home till you get to where it doesn't go any further. There you go. Now, one of the things I am sort of wanting to see is just how I'm going to get all these cable looms behind, because there's not a lot of space. And when I've done these before, one of the things a lot of subscribers say to me is, how do you get all the cables in? Well, the best thing to do is the existing harness is to get them well away as much as possible. Cut any cable ties as you can. Right, so now once you've got the radio out, you can pull the keys out again. Keep those for another time. And then let's disconnect the existing stereo cables. There you go. One old stereo. So let's get the new one on. Right, so the first thing before I do anything, I'm going to have a good look in there, get my torch out. So I'm going to try and ease up this loom in here, and let's see if I can push it down a bit more at the back. It's a bit better. So I can push the loom down at the back there, which is good, because the ones I give you with the kit, I'm now going to obviously extend it, so I need to be able to move them back as far as I can go. So just to give you an idea, this little bad boy is going to sit in there. Doofed! Like that. Welcome to 2025. Oh, my daughter's going to be so happy. As I said, you can angle it slightly, you can tilt it up and down as well. So as part of the kit, it came with this little plastic tray here, and I was trying to work out what that's for. But actually, looking at the instructions, which is quite nice and visual, you can see that different types of Volkswagen Beetles will have a different setup. So where there's a double DIN, that there is going to be like a little cubby hole to put your keys or your phone or something like that. But I don't have that, so I don't need to worry about that. Which means that also, in addition, it comes with these metal brackets as well, which I'm now not going to need to use. So just bear that in mind. Different cars was going to have a slightly different setup in terms of the existing fascia. This is what's then going to be holding the radio in. It's the chassis, they call it. Oh, this reminds me of the 90s, where it was all about either, if you're lucky, you had what they call two DINs. It was two separate, usually a graphic equalizer, and then the radio sits on top. But these little tabs here, I'll just slide that out there. These are what you bend with a screwdriver, and it just locks it in place. So that's going to slot in there somehow, and then when you get the position that you like, you then bend up the tabs, and that's what holds it. This inside bit here is going to work out exactly how that works with the stereo. There's a couple of little mounting holes by the looks of it, and there's a bit of a gap here, but that's because the kit also comes with a plastic surround, which is going to take up where the existing stereo was. So just to have a little look at that, and where this flat piece here is, that's probably going to then hide where these screws go, and then that will sit on there, and it all looks like it was always supposed to be there. Beautiful. Right, let's keep going. Pretty good. Let's now bring the cables through. Right, so now let's see what plugs go into what. It's going to be pretty much plug and play. There isn't really much in the way of instructions. You do get a QR code which you download on your phone, and it will help you, or you're using this video because obviously you found it on YouTube, and that's why I like to do these videos, because sometimes seeing it being installed is a lot easier than sort of reading through instructions. It's the way the world is at the moment. Right, let's have a look and see. I've got a whole load of instructions on here. So I've had this before with different stereos, including the ATOTO. It says here, there are two versions of the ISO wiring harness for EU vehicles, or EU stock adapter supplies. Now this particular Volkswagen Beetle doesn't have the volume control on the steering wheel. You've got an ISO connector A and an ISO connector B. Here's the other one here. And it says, in most cases, you only need to choose ISO connector A, which is what I've got in my hand. So what we'll do is we'll plug it in. So I'm going to plug in the ISO connector A. And what I've noticed is that on this brown connector, there's all of the pins showing on this part of the harness. So the other one didn't have as many. So I'm going to connect it in that orientation. This one here is your GPS and Wi-Fi antenna, and that one there is your FM antenna, which is here. Now I've got a male one here, but that's not going to fit into this long slot. So hopefully there'll be an adapter. And here we go here. This came as part of my wiring harness. All the links are sitting below for you. I bought this separately for the Volkswagen Beetle. Yeah, and now that's going to push into the back of the ATOTO unit, like so. And then this little guy here is then going to connect onto that. God, that's a large connector, that one, isn't it? Now it comes with this blue connection here, which is going to be probably a power. Right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to plug in the harness here and let's just see if things are working before we go any further. Then I'll plug in the rest of it. Right. Oh, damn! Straight away. Now the key is in. I want it to be off when I put that. There we go, so it's off, so that's good. So straight away I know that it's not going to be on all the time, because you can actually find then that it's not going to work with your key. So let's put that in. Hey! All right. Look at the size of that screen. And there we are. Wow, this is looking good. Now, what I'd like to do, I can just maybe sit that in there. I'm going to test that blue wire out that came with the radio, because I want to know how that's going to work. Right, just momentary. So let's go into radio. Right.
I don't know. I've seen you.
Hey, we got the radio working. Oh my! I tell you what, I'm going to turn this down. Okay, volume. Well, let me tell you what. I know you can't really hear it because you're watching it probably through your mobile phone, but without a doubt, this sounds a lot better, a lot more depth to the sound because it's got its own inbuilt amplifier as well. But we are getting somewhere very quickly, ladies and gentlemen. Now, looking at the wiring loom, there is one that says FM for the radio. So I've had this before where it helps with the reception. So I'm going to just strip that cable back and let's see if there's an improvement in the sound. Fine, I think it's actually helping with the reception of the radio. So I'm going to put a little connector on there. I've got my little box of tricks down here. Let's get that done. Into there. Just to keep it neat. So I don't think these ones now get utilized. So I'm going to move those out of the way. I've got additional phono cables. This all comes as part of it. And you've got everything here from your front and left audio output. You've got subwoofer ability. You can have different speakers connected in your car. But let's plug that in. So that's there if required. Make sure it's clicked all the way home. It's also got an SBDIF, that's your infrared. There's these smaller connections, and these are going to be things like for your steering wheel, if you've got steering wheel buttons. There's probably also going to be one for your front and rear cameras if you decide to install those. Now, if you actually have a look here, you think, oh, how do I know which goes where? Well, it's quite clever for these particular stereos. And what the ATOTO do is that they make them all different, so you can't make a mistake. This one on the far right-hand side is your three-way, so let's connect that into there. That's it. Now this one is going to be for two types of USBs. One is going to be a 4-pin USB and the other one is going to be for a 6-pin USB, and they have different functions which I'll get to in another video. What I like about it is when I pull these through and have them neatly underneath, you can see here it says for USB recording storage, but this one here is USB 2 for external storage. I'll find a little neat place to pull these through so that the cables will sort of protrude underneath and you can connect things. This one here is your GPS. So this goes up and we'll feed it through the dashboard, and this is going to pick up your satellites. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work from where it gets mounted on the dashboard. It just sort of sits up here somewhere, and then I'll feed the cables back through, and then they'll come back through the chassis and into the stereo. So let's get that done before it gets too dark. Plenty of space through there. was a little bit fiddly, but I managed to get a wire through there now, so I'm just going to tie off this to the end of it, which is good. There we are. Right, that was a bit tricky, but we got there. So now I'll just tidy up this loose bit of cable on this side, put a nice bit of cable tie on there, and I've got slack on this end as well. Beautiful. No one will know that's there. Cover back on again. Nice. Lovely. So with everything plugged in now, what I'm going to do is, let's make sure before I push the chassis in permanently by, as I said, moving those tabs, I'm going to just ensure that I can push the ATOTO radio in so it's all the way home. Of course, let's connect up my new antenna, which goes in there. What I want to do is I want to push in the USB cables and get those to come down underneath the dashboard here. So let's get that in first before I go any further. So a little tip to work out where you can push cables through is to shine the torch underneath, and you'll soon see, I can see the light coming through there, and I can feel I can get my hand behind it, which is lovely. Okay, so I've disconnected the two USBs from the back of the radio. I've taped them to this nice piece of draw wire here. I'm going to slowly pull them through. There we go. Lovely. Somewhere like this here, and I can plug that neatly and have my mobile phone or something maybe sat in there. So what you need to do now is you've got to get this fascia plate on before the chassis. So slide this off. You've got to get the fascia plates on very first, because that's the last thing that you're then going to offer up, because it won't go over the frame. So now put this back on again. Put this in here. Just notice that there is a way round that this little rear plastic holder goes. The holes are slightly further down on one side, so I've just basically turned it the right way round, and it fits a lot better now. And there, like that, and I'll push it all the way in a second. So starting again, I've got to push the existing harness right the way back as far as possible. That looks good. Yes, that's going to go. So let's push the inner chassis all the way back, and hopefully until it clicks. Use my screwdriver here. So on the top here and on the side there's these tiny little screws. There's probably one underneath as well, and there's also a tiny little Allen key, but it gives you the option to now move the screen, and I want to obviously bring it slightly further away from the steering wheel. So you got this way and you got this way now. On the side here there's these little decorative caps. It says to remove these. Okay, there's one. Okay, so on the sides we've got a couple of Phillips. There's a positioning screw. So I say by far probably the most awkward that it's been is this adjustment here to adjust where the screen sits. And my feedback is it could be a lot more straightforward. There's all sorts of screws and things that you have to undo. It's certainly not very obvious. So what I've actually found was it was a bit close to the steering wheel, but if I move my torch, I can now slide it left and right, which it doesn't really say very clearly in the instruction manual that. And likewise, I can move it up and down now as well. because it was a little bit close here, but now I've got the right distance away. I can sit it at an angle, but before it was very close to the steering wheel. But I moved it right the way over. I've moved it up so I can get access to the dials. Unfortunately, I don't think you'll be able to get access to all the vents. Maybe this one. It's a small hardship to pay considering what you had before in the way of the radio. So I'm just going to tighten all the screws up now. Oh yeah. Oh, and you know what? They even give you screen protectors on there as well, so you can put that on. It's solid. So let's make sure it all works. Let's go into the radio. Bit of classic FM for you. Ha 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 ha! I'm going to start talking because otherwise YouTube will give me a copyright strike. So there we are. The ATOTO X10, this particular model, is what they call the floating stereo, and it is for a situation like this where if you've got a car which is a little bit awkward but it's got the single DIN, then you can install this. I'm going to give you some feedback in terms of the wiring looms. Like always, it's a tricky one to make sure that you get it all the way home. My recommendation to you is just be as neat and as tidy as possible. Try and get your hand in, try and push the existing harnesses out of the way, and eventually you get there. It was important to make sure how you got the plastic surround on first, then the chassis, then putting the cables through, and then putting it all back together again. Otherwise, you're not going to have the trim, which is going to cover the area at the back. So the trim goes on first, remember. In terms of adjustments, for feedback on the ATOTO company, I think that could be a lot better. You had to undo various screws in order to get in there. I eventually worked it out and I can see what the premise is. But as you adjust it and move it, you take a screw out and then you put the screw back into the new position, of which there's 3, and now it's locked in. But it would be far more simple. There was like a one screw that's like a universal joint that you could turn and tighten, and once you got in that position, that was you. In terms of this whole layout here, you can tailor it and do it exactly how you want. There's all sorts of widgets and custom setups. Remember, we put the GPS satellite antenna up here. So importantly, let's have a quick look at the apps. You can download and put whatever you want to. It doesn't just have to be what came with the stereo. You've got your CarPlay for your Apple phones, and of course you've got your Android Auto as well. So one of the first things I recommend you doing is set up your Bluetooth. You can then look for your phone, or if it doesn't come up, one of the things you can do is go into your Bluetooth on your phone and try finding the X10 stereo. And there it is there, it's seen it. Let's have a look at the screen. It gives me a code to 683344, so let's press pair. There we go, that's me, my OnePlus phone, and we are connected. And I'm gonna dial my own phone and then leave myself a message.
After you've finished your message,
that sounds brilliant.
Hang up.
Right.
Or to hear more options, please press 1.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. I am now testing out the new ATOTO X10 radio for Volkswagen Beetle.
To listen to your message, press 1.
Okay, testing 1, 2, 3. I am now testing out the new ATOTO X10 radio for Volkswagen Beetle. And that was all done via Bluetooth using my mobile. I just dialed my own number. The microphone is actually inbuilt on the unit. You don't have to have a separate mic up here, and you are ready to go. And because it sits right there, you've got really good ability to get a nice clear call. You can move things around. You've got like a shortcut on the bottom. You can also put widgets on the main screen. So I'm going to drag this media app and put that on my main screen. There's I Feel For You by the great Shaka Khan. It comes up on the screen as well. Let's get some volume. Not bad. And of course you can press pause on there. You can press start. Or you can press pause on here. If you want to go to the next song, hit that. It goes to a bit of Colour Me Bad. And a bit of Coolio as well. As I said, I don't want to get a copyright strike, but you get the idea. So there we go, we got full connectivity, you got everything you could ever want. You can download apps, you can have your Apple CarPlay or your Android Auto, you got the ability to connect to your USBs down here. You're gonna have cameras on there if you want to. You've got hands-free, which you didn't have before. You can use your mobile phone with the Bluetooth. The options are limitless. And it looks really good. This is quite a funky little interior, this Volkswagen Beetle, and it was hard to actually find a stereo that was going to complement it, but I think this looks really good. So importantly, what I've done is I've moved the steering wheel forward towards me, so there's a nice big gap here. When I had it pushed back, it was a little bit too close to the radio, and now that I've managed to move it slightly to the side at an angle, it looks purposeful and it looks like it's all in keeping and ergonomic around where the driver's going to sit. So in terms of the placement of the radio, you are going to have to compromise a little bit. This is by far the biggest screen that you're going to be able to fit in a Volkswagen Beetle, and you'll get this with certain cars, is that it's not always easy just to buy a fascia kit and make it work. It's quite a funky interior on the Volkswagen Beetle, and there's not a lot of room to be able to manipulate things. Nevertheless, this is the best I think you're going to get, unless you start removing vents and all the rest. So the compromise you're going to get is that it is a little bit obstructed by the vents there, but I can still feel the air coming through, and the passenger on this side is still going to be able to get access. In terms of the dials and the switches, they are just being obscured a little bit at the top, but you can still importantly get to them. There's nothing, no switches behind there. It's just visually, as you're sat here, you don't quite see the full dial. And they're the two compromises, I say, that you need to bear in mind if you are fitting a floating aftermarket stereo like this in your Volkswagen Beetle. So let's go for a little drive and see how it is. So certainly having the radio right here, it is literally at your fingertips. Obviously you're not to control it whilst you're on the move, but it is a huge screen compared to what we had before. And thanks so much to ATOTO once again for providing today's stereo, the X10. All the information is down below, including the little tiny fascia kit. So there you go, sometimes it is definitely easier seeing an install than reading instructions. If this is your sort of thing, there's a playlist for you at the end with all the sorts of car stereos that I've installed. Thanks if you subscribed. Oh yeah. Catch you on the next one.
Baby, I'm a gangster too.